This is the Kestrel Country podcast where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of the Kestrel Country podcast. I'm your host, Mike Church, joined by my lovely wife and co-host, Catherine.
Hello, hello.
And we hope you all have had a very Merry Christmas. This next Christmas at Home series is kind of our gap between Christmas and New Year's.
It's to get you from Christmas to New Year's. And
which, though, sorry to interrupt, but I will point out is very much still Christmas.
Okay. So
the 12 days. That's only a few days into the 12 days of Christmas.
The question is, when do you take down Christmas? Are you the diehard?
After Christmas is over,
exactly.
Which is 12 days. You may have heard of this song. Yep. 12 drum. Until the drummers are drumming, you don't take down that tree.
We have this discussion a little bit with Bess on the podcast.
You did.
Which we did. We did discuss a little bit about when you take down your Christmas decor.
After Christmas is over.
Right?
Yep. 12 days.
Kind of depends.
All 12 days.
When that hits.
Yep. Well, it's easy. It's every year. It's 12 days. You can tell there's a bit of a debate in our house about this.
About when to take down Christmas.
Yeah. So Bess Hawthorne is on, which is our last of this series.
Yes.
Yep. And Bess also hosts, and out 2023. It's been a big one. Been a big year. Lots of great episodes. Lots happened. Been a wonderful year. Yeah.
And you'll stay tuned for our recap from 2023, which will air in the beginning of next year.
Nice. But Bess Hawthorne, who you have on, she is also hosts the, what's the name of her podcast?
Come Over for Dinner.
Come Over for Dinner.
So where she weekly has a different person on talking about a tip, a recipe, fun stories or mishaps in the kitchen. So she's a great one in terms of coming up with some ideas in food. So we talk about what to cook kind of after the big, huge Christmas is done. Between that
Crown rib roast
and between Christmas
Does that
and
come
New
up?
Year's, Christmas and New Year's, and maybe even what to be looking beyond New Year's. What are you going to start cooking in the new year after you're kind of maybe cooked out?
Nice.
Some ideas.
No, I was kind of serious. We had some friends from the South. Bess is from the South.
Yeah, she is.
Who they would do crown rib roast on New Year's, and that's the first time I had it.
Isn't it the black-eyed peas and the what is that meal? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Anyway, so she's a great one to have on, and you should also go take a listen to her podcast.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it here. Last one of the year.
Well, Bess Hawthorne, welcome back to the Kestrel Country podcast.
Thank you so much for having me back.
We're glad to. We had you on a year ago for our last Christmas at Home series, and we're kind of doing a slightly different one this year. We've been doing a lot of lead up, a lot of Advent focus, but you get to be the capstone. And so you're not Advent focused, you're the in-between time. We're going to focus.
Which is still a joyful time.
Exactly. But a time we need to talk about. And it's between Christmas and New Year's, and then New Year's forward. But before we jump in on all of that, can you give us a little background about yourself?
Okay, yes. Well, currently I am teaching full-time at Logos School. I teach second grade.
She teaches James.
Yes, in my class is one of her sons. He's precious.
She has to say that. We're on air.
No, it's very true.
No, it is true.
He's an amazing second grader. I also have my own family. I have 4 grown children and one still at home. He's a junior at Logos this year. 4 boys and a girl, 3 of which are married. And so I currently have 3 very small grandchildren and another one on the way. So it is a very exciting time of life and a big change from having, 5 teenagers at home. So
back to the little years in a sense.
Yes.
And now 3 of the grandkids aren't here, right?
Yes, that's
so you have
true.
to go visit them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Have to go visit the 3 that are in the South still. The one being born is here in Moscow, or we found out it's a he.
Boy.
Will be born here in Moscow in April. So I am beyond excited about that.
Yeah.
I also host the podcast Come Over for Dinner. and I interview a lot of local people, people far away too, but once a week is a different person that I interview. And we talk about hospitality and all the things surrounding that, recipes, must-have kitchen items, practical tips, that sort of thing.
Yes. So go listen to her podcast for all of that. And if you want to hear her from last year, it was episode 66. We just looked it up.
I did not remember.
No, I didn't either. So what we wanted to talk about today was those celebration times. And with Bess's experience and hearing so much from all these different women about hospitality and food and tips, that time between Christmas Day and New Year's, which can be full of celebrations. It can be people still coming over. So it might be Christmas 2, round 2, and it might not. So tell me what you think about that time frame, but that Christmas to New Year's. What's your suggestions?
Well, like you said, sometimes families are having to adjust based on other family schedules. Sometimes they're still maybe celebrating a Christmas later after the 25th. But if not, sometimes the idea is big sigh of relief. We made it to the finish line. But hold on, there's less than a week between Christmas and New Year's Eve when another celebration is going to take place. And so definitely it's a time for rest and, just enjoying the family that's been in town or the presents that were open that your children received, or, if there's snow on the ground, maybe you go sledding, or, obviously it's a time when children are out of school and it's just a fun time to be with family. But we're usually gearing up for another party pretty quickly. And so that is just definitely something to keep in mind, that it is less than a week before the New Year's Eve party. And moms especially have to really keep in mind that it needs to be a fun plan for everyone.
I like that. Yes, for sure. I feel like it seems it should be so much of a bigger space. I had to mentally think about that for a second while you were talking. And you're like, is that really just only that many days?
Yes.
It's crazy.
I know. When I looked at it, I thought, oh, well, it's 7 days. It's really not. I think it's 5, maybe 6.
Between, because if you hit on
you're
the 25th.
thinking the New Year's Eve. Yeah. Because it's not even New Year's Day.
No, it's 31st.
So one thing to consider when you have very young children, like let's say babies, toddlers, a lot of times parents are going to a fancy party and leaving the children in capable hands. They really are not able to stay up till midnight. They're not able to go that long without sleep. And they don't even recognize what's happening. And so there's obviously a time for that. But it's a good thing to think about the transition and to really recognize when your kids find New Year's Eve very important as well. And to plan for that. Now, that looks all different ways. I'm not going to sit and tell you, you can't go to your fancy holiday adult party. But think about your children. If they are old enough to feel slighted or like they're being left out and they really can make it till midnight, they would be just fine. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I don't want them staying up that late, but they would be just fine. Usually that transition happens a bit earlier than moms prefer.
Yes.
So, think about what are they going to do? And is it going to be a family party this year? Is it going to be where their friends come over or families come and we host a family party, or, things like that, or good friends, with the kids the same age or something like that?
No, that's a really good point. And it's fun. Being on the West Coast, we have an advantage too, because you can recognize the 9:00 ball drop.
They can watch it on TV.
We can all watch it. I mean, even for our own sakes.
Yes.
You can't make it that midnight hit. You can make it up to 9:00.
That's true.
The ball
you can
dropped
be
on
watching
the East Coast.
in New York.
And then boom, celebrate it and have that fun. But you're right. The kids can make it probably better in some ways than we can.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I would agree with that.
Yes. We did those, the poppers that there's nothing, explosive in them at all. All you do is pop it and it's, we did those gold ones one year at my in-laws, which was so fun. And the kids had a blast with it, but it went everywhere. Oh,
and that's inside too.
It's inside.
I mean, you can do them inside because here it's very cold.
Yeah, so it was inside, and it was so fun. And there's a great picture from it. But then the cleanup really didn't. It didn't take that long. The vacuum can handle quite a bit, but you do have that factor. But it was super fun.
Yes, often in the South we would do fireworks, but that is outside, and it was still very cold.
Well, and you can do it. You just have to have someone brave enough to go light them out, outside while you're all watching from inside.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So planning a party, if you are going to have friends over, just thinking about what is that going to look like. I know for us, we've often done things like maybe a fireworks display or the kids doing sparklers or other fireworks, but also things like, are there going to be games? Are there going to be, I mean, some people do like the minute to win it type games, you know, where it's competition inside, or we in the past have done games that you would think of a party type game like Taboo or Cranium or In the Bag, charades. And you think, well, that's for the kids. But one year we put adults and kids on, you know, we divided them up equally where there were some on each team. And it was the most competitive, memorable, fun game we've ever played. You know, and you could do it like that where parents and kids are, on, you know, against each other, or you could do parents versus kids.
Oh, that could be fun.
And
too.
that is very fun. We've had backyard sports and trampolines and hide and seek. Of course, again, some of that depends on weather. But if you kind of have a plan ahead of time, then it can really be a fun event.
Yes, the plan ahead of time is kind of key. You know, it is so funny because, well, you're a teacher, so you know the benefits of structure. But adults benefit from structure quite a bit too. And at a party, it can really help everybody enjoy and just be at ease if there's a plan in place.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so jumping to our next topic for this is the food ideas. So food ideas, and this could stretch between that time of after the Christmas Day celebration's complete. You know, what do you do for food? Because you might be cooked out, or you might have to just be gearing up and doing it again. But what are your food tips?
Well, I do like the idea of leftovers after Christmas. If you have a large feast on Christmas Day, it is amazing to have leftovers because you are cooked out a lot of times. So if you have extra ham or roast beef, or I guess it's not roast beef. What do people serve at Christmas? I'm thinking of
Well, I mean, some people do turkey or a crown roast, or is that what you're thinking?
Maybe. Anyway, if you have extras, then you can make sandwiches the next day, or you can just have a plate of leftovers. So that helps for sure to have some leftovers after Christmas Day. But again, just gearing up. Usually you're kind of thinking away from the heavy feast foods and thinking more along the lines of, you know, something different, maybe soups or stews. I saw a really fun idea, and I thought this would be a fun New Year's Eve plan. A lot of times we think of appetizers, heavy appetizers. If you do that, where people are bringing like kind of a potluck style, people are bringing different things, then consider making sure that it's not just sugary foods. You know, if you're having lots of chocolate and sweets and brownies and desserts and sodas, and it can be just everybody's sick by the end of the night because they've been there for hours with no real food. I mean, you need to think of something heavy like sliders, or, you know, actually something with protein and carbs. But if you want something more like a meal, a really great idea I saw recently was having a soup cook-off.
Oh, that's fun.
Or a soup, like a contest.
Like a competition. Oh, I love that.
So all the different families that were coming brought a pot of soup, and the host bought, I guess probably at a restaurant supply, small soup serving cups, not a giant soup bowl, but the small cups. And at a certain time, like let's say it's 7:00, every person had their little station, their pot of soup and some bowls lined up, and they served their bowls. Again, it's probably like 4 bites, you know, per.
Right.
And everyone there took one of each, and they were numbered or labeled in some way. And then they had a scorecard. And on this scorecard is a pre-printed scorecard, you know, 1 through 10. They rated the soups. And at the end of the rating, they calculated the scores, and the winners, the top, I guess, whatever, probably top 3, received a wooden spoon as a prize.
Yes. No, I love that. So, that's a great idea to do.
Everybody
it on New Year's.
A great hearty bowl of soup. I'm sure there were snacks too.
Right, but it divides some of the heavy workload among people, and then it adds that extra. Well, everybody loves competition, or maybe everybody.
Most of
us love competition.
Maybe a little too much.
Well, we've done chili cook-offs for Kestrel. And it's been so fun. And we've ordered the wooden spoons with the logo for that event
on it.
Oh, that's
fun.
And it has been fun. And it's fun to see people get competitive.
You have your wooden spoon that tells that you're the winner.
Yes, exactly. So but I like the idea of doing it for New Year's Eve. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah. This is kind of a new idea to me too, because I was thinking about foods for New Year's Eve. And a lot of times it has been heavy appetizers,
which is,
you know,
they're always fun and good, but you might just be appetizered out by by the end of December.
Yes. If you've done enough holiday parties, you never want to see a chocolate covered pretzel or
a meatball soaked in sauce.
Or what are the sausages with the dough wrapped around
the little
them?
Smokies,
little Smokies.
Which are really good. And I love them. And thankfully, we're recording this right at the beginning of December.
So we are not sick of those yet.
We're not.
If we come to your party, we're going to be thrilled by it.
But yes, you're right. By New Year's Eve, some of that stuff just might be a little bit done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good tip. Okay. So then speaking of food, we'll jump back to the New Year's decor.
Okay.
And that fresh feeling. What do you do in your January cooking?
January cooking.
You're going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
You've made it through Christmas, through New Year's, and you've got your first week of meals to plan.
Oh, dear.
What do you do?
Oh, I think then is when I pull out some of the old favorites, the ones that my kids call comfort foods, or I would call comfort foods. But when I ask them, what are the favorite things that I make, those would be some of the things I would pull out.
So what did they answer with that question?
Well, there was this ham and scallop potatoes recipe from Pioneer Woman. And I think on another podcast, I mentioned using a way to use leftover ham. I was talking about Easter, but this would be perfect for Christmas as well.
It would.
You just dice up the ham and you're putting that with a scalloped potatoes type dish in your own sauce. And it is so hearty. It is so warm and filling and they love it. So I would pull out something like that because you need something that kind of sticks to your ribs. You know, if you're pulling out a big salad because you've made a New Year's resolution.
And it's still ice on the ground.
Yeah. Your kids aren't going to be real thrilled.
No, because they might not have made that New Year's resolution.
Teenagers have not made that resolution. So while a salad may be good on the side.
Yes. Get the fresh crunch in there. That's a good tip. Yes.
But mostly I'm thinking some, hot filling, their favorite soups or stews. We also have a really great, I call it a stew. It's kind of a beef and potato type stew.
Those kinds you can do a lot with too, though, because you can mash potatoes, you can pour a soup over or a stew over mashed potatoes, and it just thickens it and makes it hearty. I mean, so there's ways to continue to spread those out or make them heartier, stickier to your bones.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are all perfect.
Yes.
Okay. What do you do for your New Year's decor?
New Year's decor. Well, I would say a lot of families do take down the Christmas tree right after Christmas. Some wait and do the 12 days.
Yeah. What do you do? Where do you land?
Well, most of my kids have always wanted. I have a daughter who loves Christmas, and we usually have the tradition of the day after Thanksgiving is when we get our tree. And the last few years before she grew up and married, she wanted to get it before Thanksgiving.
Oh. So she was stretching back.
There's not even any for sale yet. So she really wanted to stretch it before, but we stuck to our guns. We got it the day after Thanksgiving. So we have had it up for a full month. And usually my kids are kind of ready for it to go after Christmas.
Okay.
But, it just depends on the year. We're not hard and fast to, you have to go all 12 days. But a lot of families are, and I love that too.
It's funny. When Elise was on, she was talking through some of the Advent stuff. That's where we were hitting, people are diehard on some of these things when you start listening to Christmas music, when do you do all of your things? It's just a crack up on where it all is.
If our tree is completely dead, then maybe it comes down.
Incentivizes it to get out of there.
Right.
Yes.
But as far as decorating after that, I mean, a lot of times when you take down all the Christmas decorations, your house all of a sudden seems kind of bleak and drab and dreary, even though you might have color in there. But I would say a lot of the things that make us cheered with Christmas decorations is just the color, the twinkly lights, that sort of thing. And so think about how to bring those in after you take all of it down. Do you still have lights up, extra lighting somehow? Do you have twinkle lights? Some people order the fairy lights, and there's colored ones. I mean, if kids were going to vote, let's be honest, what would they pick? White or color?
Yes.
Not saying you can't do color, but kids like the color.
Yes.
So just thinking through that and thinking about having warmth in your home. I love cozy blankets on the couch, sometimes even like a heated blanket that somebody could plug in if it's an especially cold day. Yeah, just things like that make a home feel warm and welcoming. When a kid gets there, they walk in the door and they feel cozy.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Catherine needs to tell us about bringing flowers into our home, because I hear that she was involved in having us all plant paper white bulbs recently.
That was fun. So for our ladies event for Christchurch, we did a big kickoff, and it was actually Rachel who ordered 2,000 paper white bulbs. Which is really, that turns out to be a lot of bulbs.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There were some left over, but not very many. We planted a lot.
Did you go grab some? Oh, no, you were there.
Yes. I did.
Okay.
Yes,
we did have
some
extras. But no, I was ordering, it was funny. I was ordering these bricks of basically peat moss off of Amazon and rocks off of Amazon. But you still have, by the time this comes out, you're not going to have time to plant paper whites. But it doesn't mean you couldn't force other bulbs. So speaking of that, like tulips, or if you're thinking ahead, trying to force a bulb, when it's still cold outside, but you're really, really ready for spring. So getting them planted indoors ahead of time. And you can order probably, I need to do some research on this, because I think you'd have to actually make sure it had the chilled time, that the bulb was properly chilled so it would actually sprout.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm guessing, shooting from the hip here, because Bess is turning questions on me. But even if you don't plant your own, which, those are so easy, put them in rocks, put them in dirt, and just keep them moist. You can get other stuff even at the grocery store, or green plants that are alive, not the fake ones, but something that's actually alive, and start putting them all over your home, because it does. There's nothing like
so much more cheerful.
So much more cheerful. And then, the grocery store does start carrying daffodils pretty early and things like that. But if you can sneak in.
Well, even right now they have poinsettias.
Yes.
And things like that. They do often have seasonal plants you can pick up.
And it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And something like a poinsettia, or, where it'll hold the bloom time, where you're not having to pay for it every single week is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Great ideas. I'm hoping my paper whites just
take off. Have they started growing?
They have.
Okay, good.
But I have a black thumb, so...
Well, we'll work on it.
Yes. I'll get more tips from Catherine.
You don't want to overwater. Don't overwater. Okay. I think that's probably people's tendency.
Yes, it was my tendency in the past, for sure. I think I've corrected it, but we never know.
If you go the other direction, it can be a problem too, where you never water something. But it is. I love having green plants in my house. And you know what has been a struggle still is string of pearls. I love them, but they are not. I have not had them be prolifically amazing yet. So as I learn, I need to
You'll have to pass on your tips.
For sure.
Yes, everything you've learned.
I know, because it's fun.
Yes.
Well, we're kind of already leaning into that transition from Christmas to January. You mentioned the empty house feel. And then getting those twinkle lights or fairy lights definitely helps, because it's still so dark out. Do you swap out your blankets on the couches? So do you swap them for Christmas, and then do you swap them again? Or it's just kind of, no, this is cozy blanket season?
In a perfect world.
With all the storage.
With all the storage, I would have Christmas blankets and Christmas pillows. And then swap them out for snowflakes.
Just keep on.
So yes and no. I think, I've bought Christmas cozy blankets in the past. I think I've given one to my daughter, or, a couple to my daughter. So I'm not even actually sure. We moved a little over 2 years ago and really downsized. And so I'm not really sure I have Christmas blankets anymore. But I do like that idea, because and things like books, bringing out Christmas books, or if there's a Christmas puzzle, or if a Christmas blanket, or a special Christmas throw pillow, or Christmas towels, any of those things that you've collected over the years, bring them out for that season and then put them away for sure. And that makes it really special.
It does. And maybe January is when you buy a fresh one, something brand new, and feels even your kitchen towels.
Yes.
Just fresh kitchen towels, to make you excited about.
Make sure they're not gray.
That's a good point.
Bright, cheerful color.
Get that. That's a good spot for it. And if you don't have a big house, it's also a good spot for it, because it still brings color in. It was fun chatting with various ladies on all of these things, because if you don't have a big space, but you still want to bring in the color, or you're decorating for Christmas or not decorating for Christmas. So what are other ways that you bring in this wouldn't be Christmas, but just decorations in a smaller space.
I would say what you're talking about, just those bright, cheerful colors.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make it through January and February, and up
Sometimes
here,
March. And
sometimes
maybe April.
It really drags on.
Yes.
Right when you think the sun's coming out, it's false.
We
It's
get
called
fake
false
out.
spring.
We always
or fake
do.
out spring or whatever. There's names. I'm sure y'all have real names. I just make up names. But
Well, I've made up it, yes, but it's a fake.
The first year I was here, the sun came out in the normal time that spring would happen, down south. I think it was probably March, and you think, oh,
Finally.
it's finally here. And then it was totally back to winter a day later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's so important we talked a little bit about lighting and being cozy, but just the colors. Sometimes around Christmas time, we're having a lot of royal colors, the rich blues and purples and deep reds and greens. Maybe after New Year's, it's not quite springtime yet where you're thinking pastels, but maybe some bright, cheerful colors, just things that just make your house seem alive with life. The plants that you bring in. If you think about plants, it's that kind of a rich green. They're richer colors. Maybe a sunshine yellow pillow or a throw cover that just is, we know it's cozy and plush, but, just a bright, cheerful color or a fun pattern or whatever it is that makes you feel like it's not gray and black outside and dark at 4:30.
Yes, it's still sun shining inside. Well, and your table. So you could put a spot on your table, even the fruit that you purchase, if you have that out on the counter, or, your bookshelf. So if you've swapped books out, and then maybe you purposefully look for books that are not actually the books that you're reading, but based on color.
Kind of use a display.
Yes, to pull your bookshelf into the mix.
Having a display on the table, because that's what you see a lot of times as soon as you walk into the room, whether it's a live plant or flowers from the grocery store, just some kind of something cheerful there to brighten things up.
Grab the attention. No, that's a good point.
Yep.
Yes, it's a really good one.
A lot of people have mentioned on my podcast, they talk about music setting a mood. And sometimes that can really help if everything's kind of quiet and you're tired and you're like, well, I guess it's bedtime. And you look at the clock and it says 6:30, then maybe turn on some lively music, some fun music, turn up the lights, things like that as well, just to reset the mood.
That's a good tip, especially because I think after Christmas, it's easy to be constantly turning on, the Alexa or the speaker or whatever with Christmas music without even thinking about it. But it takes more effort to choose a playlist or see what mood you're in and put something on after Christmas.
Yes.
What do you like? So what kind of music is that point? Okay, we're done with Christmas. Do you have a favorite kind of playlist or genre you go to?
A lot of times for us, it would be maybe the old rock classics. And my husband grew up with his mom played old country, things like Merle Haggard.
Oh, nice.
So there's some favorites there too, maybe Johnny Cash or, but then there's some modern, we just really mix it up. We just kind of change it up. And it's funny. Sometimes we let kids have their moment in the sun with the playlist as well. If I'm playing something and Max comes along, it's like, Mom, have you heard this song? Then he he presses play on his. So we really, it's a mixture, but it's just a fun activity that kind of bolsters the mood, but also is just kind of an upbeat mixture of all kinds of things. What about you? What's your favorite?
No, it was a funny one because I grew up with my dad being classic rock, my mom being very much classical in terms of what was being listened to in the car. So it's an interesting mix, but I am horrible at lyrics. I'm horrible at, I can keep the tune. No problem. That's fine. That's there. That's in my brain.
You're like, what does that say again?
But the lyrics and remembering the name or the artist are all much more difficult for me. Mike is pretty great at picking and choosing. So if he has a playlist or something, but it's a lot. We do a lot of country at our house, and it might be classic country and probably through the 90s. It's a mix. Some current stuff too.
Current's pretty hit or miss, but there's a few gems in there. You have to really be mindful
digging
dig
through
deep
and figuring out what what's what. So it's easier for me to turn on one of the playlists there, or one of the kids' playlists where it's some of their favorites.
Right, where they've added all their favorite songs.
Yes.
And you can do that on Spotify or Apple or lots of places. You can hear a song, say, add that to my playlist, and then you kind of create a playlist that is curated just for your family. And that's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Because I forget song names.
Oh, me too.
I know lyrics. I can sing along to it. But if somebody asks me what's the name of that song, I'm out. I don't know.
No.
Who's it by? I don't remember.
Oh, no. It's horrible. That part you mentioned, cranium, and the humdinger stuff is not
not in
my
your
strong
wheelhouse.
Not a good one. But for me, it's easy in the car for us to do the music, but it's more effort to do it at home. And so I like that tip of really leaning in, because we do it for Christmas all the time, but leaning into it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We were shooting to stick to 30 minutes today, and we're almost at our peak. But did you have any other tips or ideas?
Well, when we talked about a New Year's Eve party, and this could be for New Year's Day as well, we mentioned food. I didn't mention drinks. Obviously, adults often have champagne at midnight. Don't forget the kids. If they're celebrating with you, if it is a family party, you can buy disposable champagne flutes from lots of places, but Walmart is one of them you can order from. And let them also have a sparkling cider or Half-Baked Harvest. She does lots of drink recipes. She always has a mocktail version. And so they could be having the same drink. I mean, the champagne, if you just have straight champagne, that's different. But if you had a special drink for the adults, the kids could also, just don't let them be left out all the time. Is another way to bring them and make them feel very special, having their own champagne flute with a special drink to celebrate New Year's. Some people do a countdown. Some people, people do it different ways. And then also just think about, what are they going to be doing at midnight? If all the adults are hugging and kissing, my daughter reminded me that she and her friends one night at midnight, there was a countdown and they participated in it, but they were making pancakes at midnight as teenagers. And one of the teens in the kitchen making pancakes with her was her now husband. She said she was stirring batter as the clock struck midnight and everyone else was hugging and kissing, but I guess my pancake making paid off. And I totally didn't even think about that, but that was something that they decided they want to do. Let's all make pancakes together, you know? And so anyway, things like that. And then for the morning after the New Year's party, everyone stayed up late. Hopefully the kids are sleeping in. This is when you're done cooking. This is truly when you do not want to wake up and make breakfast. So my hot tip, you can prepare ahead of time, go get some pastries or your favorite, go out, get your favorite pastries or something like that if it's open. But my hot tip that I've recently discovered, some of us go to Trader Joe's in Spokane. They have in the frozen section a box. It's a 4-pack of chocolate croissants that are just frozen dough. And it's like a little sandwich or whatever, a rectangle. They're not risen. And there's 4 of them for like $5. Okay, so you're paying a little over $1 for these chocolate.
Which is a really good price for croissants.
Yes, because normally you're going to have to go out to a bakery
and pay $5
for one.
Yeah,
which is a special treat. But if you are waking up in your pajamas and that's how you plan to stay for a bit on New Year's Day, all you do the night before at midnight, you take these out of the box and set them on a baking sheet. That's it. And they rise overnight. And you wake up and they are perfectly risen. You don't cover them or anything. They're perfectly risen. You put them in the oven to cook and you have just these amazing pastries the next morning. And they are so special. They are so delicious, surprisingly delicious. And they have 2 bars of chocolate in them. When they call them chocolate croissants, it's not like, where's the chocolate?
Right.
I can't even find it. It's chocolatey, it's delicious, and it's special. That's what I plan to do for New Year's Day breakfast.
That's a really good one. That is such a good one.
Hot tip.
I love it. We've had those. It's been a hot minute since we've done them, but planning ahead like that makes a big difference for enjoying the next morning.
So anytime in December, you can
easy.
just throw boxes in your freezer.
That's
a couple of boxes and have as many as you need for your guests. And if you wanted to add some eggs or bacon or something, you could, but you're not having to get up and make scones or muffins
Flour
or your own croissants or,
Yes.
And a lot of times those things the next day aren't as good. So if you went out and bought pastries, maybe the next morning they're not as, it might be okay.
Yeah.
But
But it's still doing something special without having any workload.
No work.
Yeah.
None.
And minimal cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's a really
You
fun
put them
one.
on parchment and it's zero cleanup, honestly, if you put them
Right.
on a piece of parchment paper.
Right.
So
No, that's a really good tip. I
Mhm.
love it.
Mhm.
I feel like we need the list for Trader Joe's.
We do.
Remember to get this when you're there.
Mhm.
And X goes in the freezer and X goes in your pantry for gifting because of good soaps. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's
we need
fantastic.
a spreadsheet.
We do. The Trader Joe's.
I assign Catherine the
Thank you.
job.
I know. We'll work this up. So you need to send it to us. Why it was just, who was at? Oh, Trader Joe's. We were just at Trader Joe's down in Boise for Thanksgiving. And they also have the maple cookies. There's two things I'm going to mention. The maple cookies, if you haven't had those, it's like an Oreo shaped as a maple cookie and it's filled with maple and it's delicious.
That sounds amazing.
Mike loves them.
I love maple and I have not tried those.
And it's not overly sweet.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's sweet, but it's not ridiculously so. But then the other one are their sea salt butterscotch caramel chocolate covered balls. And they are in the section. So, you know, there's the frozen section. And I feel like they're above it, that little shelf above the frozen section. It's a small blue bag. And they're just the right ratio of chocolate. And
I think I have had
you had those?
And they are
Good.
delicious.
They're so good.
Those are addictive.
I know.
It's been a while,
it's a
though.
problem.
I
Yes.
need to add that to my
Add
list.
to the Trader Joe's list of necessities.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I'll be going in December to pick up my daughter from the airport. So before I go get her,
You need to make a
there's
stop
going to be
at
a
Trader
Joe's run. She'll be thrilled, though, when she turns around and sees all the bags in the back seat.
Well, and I think we appreciate it so much in Moscow because it's not just, 20 minutes away. It's you have to go up to Spokane.
You do have to plan, yes. And so I don't go that often. I don't usually make a separate
No.
trip. I mean, some people do go up there to go shopping, but for me, it's usually an airport run. And so if I have family coming in, we do in December, I have a family coming in. So it's kind of like, yes, make your list and
Make
plan
your
it for weeks.
It makes it extra.
And what sister wants what thing. And let me write down your list and have 3 different lists. And yes, we make a big plan for Trader Joe's.
Oh,
we
it's
don't
good.
have one in our town.
No, Moscow. I do think we could support it. I really do.
I agree.
But
I feel like we should make a push for this.
a petition.
A petition. I also feel that way about Sam's Club, and no one has.
See, I have no idea of what Sam's Club actually is.
It'd be similar to Costco.
Okay.
But we definitely need
Is it
one
better
here.
than Costco?
Well, I shouldn't say that on
On
air.
air, okay.
But, I've used it for 20 plus years. And so obviously I'm partial to it. And the prices you can't beat the prices. They're
Better
just
than
so
Costco.
good. A lot of times they're comparable. I think the thing with Sam's Club is they're giving you bulk, but a lot of times it's not always organic or the name brand
Gotcha.
or the highest quality of meat, which is great. It's awesome. But for families with tons of kids, maybe you don't want the organic berries. You just want berries.
Right.
And so the cost would be dollars less if it was, I don't know.
That makes sense. Okay. That makes sense.
Anyway, so I just found that at Sam's Club, it was still very reasonable prices, and still is, even with inflation. There's still very reasonable prices.
Wow.
So anyway, but a lot of things are comparable at Costco for sure. But it's still a 45-minute drive, and that makes it
It makes it
Another-
harder. Yeah. A harder
another trip you have to schedule.
That's for sure. Well, Bess, thank you so much for coming on. Be sure to go listen to Bess's podcast. And we're excited for the new year. So happy new year.
Yes. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been fun to come and talk about it and get ideas from you as well.
Oh, fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.